busier than a three-legged dog in a hubcap factory, and he just keeps taking on more and more work with it as well. He's our good friend of the show, Sheriff Evanston County, the one and only Shane Doyle. What's up, partner? How you making it over there, man?
Good morning, Tony. Man, I'm just getting by. That's the best way I can put it.
You have been busy over there. A lot of stuff going on. How's folks in Evanston County doing right now?
Well, they're good
you know?
because I'm in charge of their safety. So
That's what I'm
everybody's
saying.
doing great.
That's what I'm saying,
My employees may not feel the same way, but the citizens, man, they're solid.
Yeah, good stuff over there by staying healthy and safe.
Oh, yeah.
And everything like that, going through this crazy times we've lived. What's sheriffing been like in a pandemic world? You know,
Well, it started off, it's crazy. It started off by our call load went way down.
Right.
Because everybody was stuck at home and they weren't getting out and doing stuff.
Right.
And then our domestic load went way up because everybody was stuck at home together.
and they realize they hate each other.
Yeah. And then our DUIs went way up because
Right.
the only thing they didn't close was the liquor store. But for the most part, you know, it was actually manageable for us for a little while,
Yeah.
and then it became unmanageable.
Yeah.
And then summertime hit, and the lake opened, and all the people from Louisville
Right.
that were under the constraints of the Louisville government and
Yeah.
the race riots and whatnot,
Right.
they all came to the lake.
Yeah.
And which is hedonism for them.
Right.
The rules don't apply at the lake, apparently. So, and between that and the Blue Holler Off-Road Park and the Redneck Rave 2020,
Right, I heard stories about that.
we have had our
actually.
hands full.
Yeah, so well, it's good to see everybody is safe and sound and still with us, and a lot of great stuff going on. And of course, you've been tackling another unique way, and I really see this as a way of just building better community relations. But
Yeah.
when you talk about folks, especially in law enforcement, but breaking down those barriers to where you know people see you guys in law enforcement as the real people you are, as the family, you know, got families at home,
Right.
and having a lot of times uncomfortable conversations with folks, right? You know,
Yes, sir.
and having
Yeah.
real talk with people. And I feel like right now we've got that across the board, not just in Bowling Green and Warren County, but in Evanston County, a lot of our counties. We've got really good law enforcement officials out there. And you've
Yeah.
actually taken that to another step, too. You've got a new podcast that you're doing, right?
I do.
Yeah.
It's called Real Period,
Yeah.
Uncomfortable Period Conversations Period.
Okay.
Because these conversations are real. They're
Yeah.
not scripted. I get somebody in my little homemade studio
Right.
that's different from me. Who the way I put it is they see the world through a different lens than I do.
Right.
And then I talk to them about what makes the world different between the way I see it and the way they see it.
Right.
It's not really a point counterpoint thing. We're not arguing
Right.
about something. I just ask them questions
Yeah.
that if you were able to talk to them, you would think, well, I really want to know about this particular thing, but I'm not comfortable enough to ask that guy that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that you would be that way because you can get pretty weird too. But
Yeah, that's a fact.
most people, they just can't stand anything that gives you that little cringe factor.
Yeah.
They just want to shy away from those kind of things. And the whole point of this podcast is it's real, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it gets really uncomfortable.
So, who are some of the folks that you guys have talked to so far? What are some of the ones that kind of, obviously, folks can go back and listen to the archives and things like that. We'll tell you how to do that here in a second. But who are some of the folks that you've had a chance to sit down with and have real uncomfortable conversations with? Yeah.
So it's still pretty new. Actually, episode 3 just dropped this morning.
Right.
So it's available. But my first episode was with a friend of mine, Eric Roscoe.
Okay.
Eric he's a black man,
Right.
and he's a U.S. Navy vet, and we talked to him about what it's like to be one of the only black people living in a very rural area.
Right.
About growing up, in a black family, and how being a minority in America has shaped the way that he sees things. And what I found out is what I think, when I talk to someone who I think is really different from me,
Yeah.
it turns out we're really not that different in a lot of ways.
Wow.
And I think that is what people really need to take away from a lot of these conversations. My second episode was with Jordan Jones. He's an Army vet, and we talk about his deployments to Afghanistan.
Right.
We don't really cover the combat side of things because I think that's really been covered in a lot of other formats.
Yeah.
But it's really the non-combat side of going to war, leaving your family behind, what every day is like. You know, what do you do for fun? How do you go to the bathroom? Why you're not wearing underwear?
But honestly, those are the kind of
Yeah.
things that where you go, I mean, you see when people talk about going off to war, you know, and overseas, Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever, you know, the situation is, you see all the the war side of it,
Yeah.
the combat side of it.
Right.
You hear those stories, horrible stories, and glorious stories sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't think about like, well, how does a day work?
And that's most of the time. Most of
Yeah.
the time is not fighting and shooting and blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
Most of the time is PT. It's, you know, shoveling turds out
Yeah.
of places and, you know, the everyday stuff. And we talk about, you know, is the potato peeler really a hero? Because,
Yeah.
you know, Bill Burr, he says, well, you know, the guy that's cooking the food, he's not really an American hero.
Yeah.
We cover why he is.
Yeah.
And then this morning's episode covers religion. So basically all the things that we're not supposed to talk about,
Right.
we talk about. So yeah, we talk about religion. We talked to a guy who converted to Catholicism as an adult, and what it was like kind of finding his way through the religious spectrum, and why he settled on the, you know, settled is not the best word. Why he chose the route
Right.
that he chose, and what makes that different for him.
And it's not judging them. It's not trying to change
Not
their
at all.
mind. It's just like,
No.
hey, I'm see, okay, yeah. Like just explain
Right.
explain
mean,
it to me. Yeah.
When you want to get uncomfortable, you ask a Catholic, "So what about the what about the scandals in the church and
Sure,
you
yeah.
know, all of those things?" So, and it's not to, you know, every church has its problems,
Yeah.
but this guy knows about being a Catholic, so
No,
that's why we talk to him.
I've known you for a long time, and obviously you're a very outgoing guy. You have a problem. Well, in the business you work in, you got
I have to
you
be.
got to tackle uncomfortable situations. You do it every single day. You do it as soon as you walk
Yeah.
out of here today and go back to Edmonson County.
That's right.
But when you talk about especially things like race and religion and war and things like that, is it hard to even like is it one of those things kind of like jumping in a swimming pool in May, right? You know it's going to be cold,
Right.
But as soon as you get in, though, you know that okay, cool. You
Yeah.
adapt and you're having a great time, and and your body gets used to it.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing, especially in today's culture. We got to talk about race with somebody, and
yeah, man.
and it's like okay, let's just jump in the pool.
Oh, you know, you don't really know how it's going to go. It's hard to find people that's willing to come on and talk about things that are
Yeah.
odd and uncomfortable. But if you can just get them in there, and one thing I do every time is I say, "Is there anything you just want me to stay completely away from?" Because
Right.
I don't want to cause a problem, obviously.
Right.
And so far, I really haven't had anybody say, "Well, this is off limits,"
Right.
which I think is great. But yeah, you jump in, you know, you shake it off, and then you're kind of rolling.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to the episodes to come. I want to talk about a lot more uncomfortable things.
Yeah, very cool. It's real uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
With Shane Doyle, and you can download the. How do we go about listening to it? What's the best way to do this?
All right, so I'm available on a lot of different podcast platforms. Apple Podcast is the one that I personally use, but Anchor is my host.
Right.
So it's available on Anchor. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Yep.
Overcast, One Republic. No, is that One Republic?
That's a band. Actually,
That
by the
is a
way.
band.
Yeah.
No.
Or a store in the mall. I can't
Radio
remember.
Republic.
Radio Republic.
That's
the
it.
one.
Yes. Spreaker and a whole bunch of other ones. Still trying to get into iHeartRadio and into Google Podcasts. It's just a process waiting for it to get approved. So,
I think it's really cool stuff, and I think there's conversations that need to be had across the board right there.
I agree.
Very, very good stuff. And I believe it's one of those things too where you can take a podcast and you're not just it's not just just a pipe dream idea out here
Right.
somewhere, but there's things you can take away from that. I guarantee you there's conversations you've had in every one of these that you can apply to you and your deputies out there and the
Yeah.
folks of Edmonson County as well next time you're in a situation or whatever it may be.
well, and
to
the
walk
folks
away
of
from
Warren
it.
County and the
Yeah,
folks
exactly.
of Orange County, and
Yeah.
I mean, coast to coast, I think everybody really. And actually, this is a really cool story. I will tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
Buddy of mine in California, he's a TV producer. I got to know him through Live PD.
Right.
And he actually messaged me. He's like, "Hey man, I just checked it out, and you have caused me to step back from the abyss of politics and reevaluate the way that I'm looking at people."
We need that, man.
So-
that's what we need. That's a high compliment right now.
Yeah, it
in
was. It
today's
really
time.
was.
Shane, good seeing you as always, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate what you do. Appreciate what all you folks do out there, man.
Thank you.
Really, a lot of respect every single day you guys going out there and risking your lives. In today's world, that is crazy times. You never know what you're going to walk
It's
up on.
nuts out there.
And so thank you so much for doing that for
Thank
us
you,
out
brother.
there and keeping us safe along with all of